And now for this afternoon's reflection, please join me in welcoming Clare Carter.
There we go. Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, Ridleyans, and welcome back to another Prefect homily. As we approach the end of second term, before we know it, this year will be coming to an end. For us grade 12s, it means graduation and moving on to new things beyond Ridley. That's exciting, yes, but what about the uncertainties? What will our lives be like a year from now, or even 6 months from now? The future is an incredibly daunting concept, usually weighing on us at the back of our minds. Even now, this wouldn't only apply to those graduating, but to everyone. Time is moving quickly. Life is going to sneak up on you. So how are you going to take it on? What attitude are you going to take this next step with? Are you going to walk into the unknown fearing everything and forgetting who you are? Or will you do it with your head held high and, as my mom would say, quoting Socrates, knowing thyself? Good afternoon, Mr. Kidd, Mrs. Bett, Mr. Postma, Mr. Carter, Mom, Maddie and Dan, Auntie B, faculty, fellow students, and my friends. I would also like to acknowledge my older brother Angus, and as well as friends and family joining online. As I present my homily to you all today, these are the things to keep in mind to ensure your confidence and optimism in your own future. Element number 1, remembering how far you've come. When difficult times come upon us, it's easy to spiral into extreme pessimism. We all felt it through the COVID-19 pandemic, but we got through it. For example, I distinctly remember last January, in the midst of online school, receiving an email from our dear Deputy Headmaster, Mrs. Bett, beginning along the lines of, right, so starting on Monday morning, we are going to be implementing new COVID-19 procedures here on campus. Gosh. All jokes aside, when's the last time we got an email like that? One about new COVID procedures or new guidelines to follow? The pandemic changed our lives. We all spent birthdays behind screens in online school. We've all felt the despair of hearing the news of, we're going into another lockdown, or this event will not be happening. We've all felt the loneliness of being separated from our friends for months at a time, or spent holidays away from our loved ones. New Year's Eve countdowns didn't feel like the promise of something great. The world was beginning to feel hopeless. We thought that things would never improve. But they did. And it was our leaders who helped guide us, including the calm, sure-footed Mrs. Bett. For many of us, this is the first year at Ridley where we've gotten to experience what it truly has to offer. If you look back at the past 6 months, we've all done a lot, which is a reflection of how far we've come. As Mr. Kidd has once said, people are starting to forget what living through COVID was actually like. Many would view this as a blessing. However, it is critical that we recognize our previous struggles. Remembering how you made it through a dark time in all of our lives is the same thing to remember when more of your dark days fall upon you. By acknowledging the progress you've made through other parts of your life, there's nothing you can't do, even when faced with the uncertainty of your future. Element number 2, knowing your strengths. One of the most valuable ways that I learned this was through grade 11 physics with Miss Olga. I know, not exactly what you'd expect from me, is it? Miss Olga's common phrases in class fell along the lines of, physics, it is easy, no panic. Are you agree with me? One day, in a meeting with me near the end of the year, she asked me, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to be a lawyer." To which she replied, "You're going to be good lawyer," which I found amusing given it probably also meant, "You're not going to be good physicist." Needless to say, I'm not taking that class anymore. Miss Olga, however, still taught me something valuable that day, which I'll always be thankful for. I knew I wasn't carrying on with physics, but at the same time, I was acknowledged, where someone believed in me, that I was heading in the right direction. By pursuing academics in what I wanted and thought I'd be good at instead, I'd be set for my future. We have all had that one class, or maybe several classes, that we felt we weren't good at and simply wanted to be done with. If nothing else, those classes show us where our true strengths really lie, not only in an academic sense, but in real life. Even when it's the things we do care about that ignite the fire within each of us and show us our strengths, we learn more about what we're capable of from our failures than we do from our successes. We're all pretty lucky to be at Ridley, and I'm not specifically referencing the Terrar Dum Prosum motto or anything like that. Having spent 10 years prior in public school, our leaders and faculty here are the ones trying to lift us up and set us up for our future, who truly want to see the best in us. We definitely take that for granted, because upon leaving this school, it becomes up to us to take those lessons with us and see the strengths within ourselves. Element number 3, acknowledging that tough times will come, but won't last forever. In other words, the belief in a better tomorrow. Now, I haven't always had the same optimistic outlook on life and my future. In fact, when I first started out at Ridley last year, I was feeling quite the opposite. As many of my friends know, and people in Mandeville would remember, I had a Russian roommate last year. On one of my first nights, I was on the phone with my parents, feeling quite homesick. Once I hung up, my roommate, through broken English, asked me what was wrong, so I explained in detail how I was feeling. In response, this girl, who barely understood a word I said, simply replied, "It's bad now, but soon it will be good." And she was right. Things improved with time to the point where, as corny as it sounds, Ridley eventually became a second home for me. Even with some challenges that came my way, everything worked out how it was supposed to, leading me to where I am and who I am now. So in a literal sense, things were bad, but soon they were good. The simple act of looking at the bigger picture, the realization that in your present struggles, you won't always feel this way, is the key to carrying on to your future with the right mindset. Even when things feel like they won't get better, that these feelings will last, remember that things change, because what's life without change? This belief in a better tomorrow is the confidence you have about your life that you will overcome this obstacle. While this may seem similar to my first point, there's an important difference. Just because you look back on the past and see that you made it through something doesn't mean you have true optimism. It doesn't mean you are truly confident in your future. Most importantly, you can see how far you've come, but miss what those difficult times actually taught you in the process. This is why the belief, the hope that there are better days ahead is the most important element of them all. Even when we don't know what lies ahead for us, there's lots to be remembered about our time here and how we should look towards the future with confidence. In a place like Ridley, we are so heavily influenced by those around us, and there's lots we can learn from them. There's quite a few of us in this room that are about to go off on new journeys in the next several months. We're about to leave behind high school and take on new paths on our way to becoming adults. That's exciting, but it's also sad and even terrifying. I'm not going to stand up here and pretend like that's not a big deal, that it's going to be an easy journey. It is not. Uncertainty is scary, even if you don't want to admit it. However, by knowing yourself, through how far you've come, your personal strengths that you'll carry with you, or your belief in a brighter tomorrow, that brighter tomorrow will come. My experiences at Ridley have solidified that, even in the strangest of ways and from the most unexpected sources. By the way, for those of you that fell victim to my impersonations in this homily, I appreciate you being a good sport, and as my parents always say, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Nonetheless, I hope this reminds you all of the great things that lie ahead of you. Well, none of us know what's to come, but how you look at it makes the world of difference. Your journey awaits, so fall in love with your future, and you will be able to take on practically anything that comes your way. Thank you.